If you've ever felt like you were doing everything right, texting her first, showing interest, being available, and even going out of your way to impress her, but she still seemed distant or uninterested, you're not alone. The problem isn't your effort, it's the strategy. Chasing, no matter how well-intentioned, often triggers psychological responses that can completely shut down attraction. Today, we're going to break down why this happens, how to stop it, and, more importantly, how to create a dynamic where attraction grows naturally and mutually. By the end of this, you'll not only understand the psychology behind chasing, but also walk away with actionable tips to build better connections and value yourself in the process. Let's start by understanding what happens in the mind of someone who is being chased. Imagine you're constantly receiving messages, compliments, and attention from someone you're not entirely sure about yet. At first, it might feel flattering, but soon, it begins to feel overwhelming, almost like pressure. That's because, psychologically, humans are wired to place more value on things they have to work for, and less value on things that come too easily. This is often referred to as the scarcity principle. When something feels abundant, like someone's attention, it's easy to take it for granted. This principle is rooted in how our brains perceive value. Think about it. Why are rare gemstones like diamonds considered so precious? It's because they're hard to find. The same principle applies to human relationships. When you're always available, constantly initiating contact, and bending over backward to please someone, you're sending an unspoken message: I need you more than you need me. And that imbalance of value is what begins to kill attraction. But the act of chasing often puts you in a state of psychological neediness. You start to base your self-worth on their responses, whether they reply to your texts, agree to meet up, or even just acknowledge your efforts. This creates a dangerous cycle where your confidence is tied to external validation. The more you chase, the less confident you feel, and the more you project that lack of confidence outward. Confidence, or the lack thereof, is one of the biggest subconscious signals people pick up on in relationships. Confidence communicates that you value yourself and that your attention is something to be earned, not freely given without reciprocation. On the flip side, chasing communicates insecurity, fear of loss, and desperation. And here's the kicker: desperation is the ultimate attraction killer. It's not because people are mean or insensitive, it's just human nature. When someone senses that you're overly invested before they've even had a chance to invest back, it creates pressure and discomfort. This is where understanding emotional dynamics becomes crucial. Attraction grows in stages, like a fire. It needs the right conditions: a spark, oxygen, and space to breathe. Chasing is like smothering the fire with too much fuel too soon. It suffocates the flame before it has a chance to catch. To fully grasp why chasing often backfires, we need to delve deeper into the psychology of attraction. At its core, attraction thrives on curiosity, uncertainty, and anticipation. These three elements create emotional tension, which is what keeps people interested and invested in any relationship. When you chase someone, you unintentionally remove these elements. You're too predictable, too available, and you leave no room for the other person to wonder about you or what you're feeling. Think about this. When you're watching a great movie or reading a compelling book, what keeps you engaged? It's the uncertainty about what's going to happen next. Will the hero succeed? What's going to be revealed in the next chapter? This same principle applies to relationships. If someone already knows how you feel, what you're going to say, and that you'll always be there no matter what, the mystery is gone. Chasing removes that emotional tension and, with it, the excitement of getting to know someone. Now let's flip the perspective. When you stop chasing, you give the other person the opportunity to come toward you. This doesn't mean playing games or acting cold. It's about shifting the dynamic so that there's space for mutual effort. People value what they work for. When someone invests time and effort into a relationship, they become more emotionally connected. By constantly chasing, you rob the other person of the chance to invest. Instead of building a relationship together, it starts to feel one-sided, with you doing all the work. This brings us to the idea of self-worth. When you chase someone, you're often subconsciously telling yourself that their approval is more important than your own sense of value. You might feel like you have to prove yourself to them, to convince them to like you or stay interested. But here's the truth. Attraction doesn't work like that. Attraction isn't something you can force or negotiate. It happens naturally when two people see each other as equals, both bringing value to the relationship. By chasing, you also risk creating a power imbalance. The person being chased often ends up feeling like they hold all the control, while the chaser seems willing to accept anything just to keep their attention. This imbalance isn't just unhealthy, it's unsustainable. A balanced, thriving relationship requires mutual respect and equal investment. When one person is always pursuing and the other is always being pursued, it creates resentment, frustration, and eventually detachment. Here's another layer to consider. Chasing doesn't just affect the other person, it changes how you see yourself. When you're in pursuit mode, you're focused on what you lack, whether it's their time, attention, or affection. This focus on lack can breed feelings of inadequacy. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who brings value to the table, you start to feel like you're not enough, which can lead to even more chasing in a desperate attempt to fill that emotional void. The first step to breaking the cycle of chasing is to shift your mindset from one of seeking to one of offering. This means recognizing that you are not just someone hoping to be chosen, you are someone with value to bring into a relationship. When you truly internalize this, your entire approach changes. Instead of chasing someone's attention, you begin to focus on building a life that naturally attracts people who appreciate you. This isn't just a psychological shift, it's a practical one too. Let's talk about creating attraction. Attraction isn't just about appearances or charisma, it's about how you make people feel in your presence. When you chase, your energy often comes across as anxious or needy. This can make the other person feel pressured or even trapped. But when you're calm, confident, and grounded in your own self-worth, you create a sense of ease and positivity that draws people toward you. Confidence is magnetic because it communicates that you're secure in who you are and don't rely on anyone else for validation. One powerful way to stop chasing and build mutual attraction is to focus on your passions, goals, and interests. When you're fully engaged in your own life, you naturally become more interesting and attractive to others. Think about someone you admire, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or even a celebrity. Chances are, what draws you to them is their passion, confidence, and the fact that they seem to be thriving in their own world. This same principle applies to you. The more you invest in yourself, the more attractive you become. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're genuinely living a fulfilling life over investing. For example, if you're always the one texting first or planning dates, take a step back and give the other person room to contribute. When you're too eager to initiate, it can create an unspoken expectation that they don't need to put in effort. By holding back slightly, you invite them to take the initiative, which creates a sense of equality and mutual investment. It's also important to recognize the difference between pursuing someone and respecting them. Respect means giving them the space to choose you freely. Pursuing, on the other hand, often comes from a place of trying to control the outcome. When you respect someone's boundaries and pace, you create a safe environment where attraction can grow naturally. This doesn't mean you should never express your feelings or take the lead. It's about striking a balance where your actions show interest without overwhelming the other person. Lastly, practice the art of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or become aloof. It means you're not emotionally dependent on the outcome. When you're detached, you can enjoy the process of getting to know someone without feeling like your happiness hinges on their response. This mindset not only makes you more attractive, but also protects your emotional well-being. Breaking free from the chasing mindset is about more than just changing your actions. It's about changing how you see yourself and the role you play in relationships. It's about recognizing that you deserve someone who values and invests in you just as much as you do in them. One of the most transformative things you can do in your relationships is to truly value yourself. This might sound simple, but it requires more than just repeating affirmations or reminding yourself that you deserve better. Valuing yourself is about setting boundaries, knowing your worth, and refusing to settle for less than what you deserve. It's also about recognizing that you are the prize, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that acknowledges the unique value you bring to the table. Let's start with boundaries. When you chase someone, you often find yourself ignoring your own boundaries just to win their approval. Maybe you tolerate behaviors that make you uncomfortable, or you keep putting their needs ahead of your own. Over time, this doesn't just affect how they see you, it affects how you see yourself into any relationship. By setting clear boundaries, you send a powerful message, not just to the other person, but to yourself. You're saying, I respect myself enough to walk away from situations that don't align with my values. This kind of self-respect is incredibly attractive because it shows that you have standards and aren't afraid to enforce them. People are naturally drawn to those who hold themselves in high regard, and boundaries are a key way to demonstrate that. Another way to value yourself is to cultivate a mindset of abundance. Often, the urge to chase someone comes from a fear of scarcity, the belief that they're your only chance at happiness, or that you'll never find someone else like them. This fear can be paralyzing, and it pushes you to cling to relationships even when they're one-sided or unhealthy. But the truth is, there are billions of people in the world, and plenty of them would appreciate and value you for who you are. When you shift your perspective from scarcity to abundance, you free yourself from the fear of losing someone, which makes you more confident and less likely to chase. Self-worth is also about prioritizing your own happiness. Many people fall into the trap of thinking, if I can just make them happy, then I'll be happy too. But this approach is backwards. Your happiness should never depend on someone else's mood or approval. Instead, focus on building a life that brings you joy, whether it's through hobbies, friendships, career goals, or personal growth. When you're genuinely happy and fulfilled on your own, you become someone others want to be around. Not because you're chasing them, but because your energy is magnetic. It's also important to remember that valuing yourself isn't about playing games or withholding affection to seem mysterious. It's about being authentic and showing up as your best self. When you value yourself, you're not afraid to express interest or vulnerability, but you also don't allow yourself to be taken for granted. You're able to strike that balance between openness and self-respect, which is the foundation of a healthy, mutually fulfilling relationship. Finally, valuing yourself means being willing to walk away from situations that don't serve you. This can be one of the hardest things to do, especially if you've invested time and energy into a relationship. But sometimes, letting go is the most powerful way to demonstrate your self-worth. It shows that you're not willing to compromise your standards or settle for less than you deserve. And when you walk away with confidence, you not only protect your own well-being, but also command a level of respect that chasing could never achieve. Now that we've explored the psychology of chasing and how valuing yourself can transform your relationships, it's time to focus on creating balanced and healthy connections. At the core of this balance is the idea of mutual attraction, where both people are equally invested, equally engaged, and equally excited to build something meaningful together. But how do you foster this dynamic? The answer lies in aligning your actions, mindset, and communication. First, responding with the same level of enthusiasm. Are they initiating conversations or plans? Matching their pace helps create a sense of balance and mutual effort. Next, practice the art of giving without expectation. Genuine connection grows when acts of kindness and interest come from a place of authenticity, not as a strategy to gain approval. When you give without expecting something in return, whether it's a compliment, a thoughtful gesture, or your time, you create an environment where the other person feels appreciated without pressure. This doesn't mean you should give endlessly or tolerate one-sided effort, but rather that your actions should come from a place of self-confidence and generosity, not from a need for validation. Another crucial aspect is communication. Open, honest communication is the backbone of any successful relationship, but it's especially important when you're trying to avoid the pitfalls of chasing. Instead of guessing or assuming what the other person wants, ask them directly. Share your thoughts and feelings in a way that's clear and respectful, and encourage them to do the same. For example, if you're unsure about where you stand, it's perfectly okay to say something like, "I really enjoy spending time with you and getting to know you. How do you feel about where this is going?" This kind of dialogue fosters trust and ensures that both people are on the same page. One of the most powerful ways to build mutual attraction is by maintaining your independence. This doesn't mean being distant or unavailable. It means continuing to live your own life, pursue your own goals, and nurture your own interests, even as you invest in the relationship. Independence is attractive because it shows that you're a complete person on your own, not someone who's looking for another person to fill a void. When you have your own passions and a fulfilling life, you bring more to the relationship, and you also avoid the trap of becoming overly reliant on the other person for your happiness. Finally, prioritize emotional availability over chasing perfection. It's easy to get caught up in trying to impress someone or be the ideal partner, but real connection happens when you show your authentic self, flaws and all. Be open about your goals, your boundaries, and your feelings. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the foundation of intimacy. When you're emotionally available and willing to let someone in, you create a space where they feel safe to do the same. By focusing on these principles, pacing, giving authentically, open communication, independence, and emotional availability, you can create a dynamic where both people feel valued and invested. Mutual attraction isn't about chasing or being chased. It's about building a connection that's grounded in respect, understanding, and shared effort. And remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. When you value your own worth, live authentically, and refuse to settle for less than you deserve, you naturally attract people who recognize and appreciate your value. That's the key to moving beyond chasing and building the kind of relationships that last.